It seems like it's been happening a lot lately because, once again, we are talking about a monster who, after having been raised in a relatively normal family, had grown up to do something horrible. It just goes to show that sometimes, no matter what you do, no matter the situation, when it comes to kids, things can just go wrong. Give them a roof, food, love, and everything they could ever need, and yet sometimes it's not enough. Now, there is always a possibility that more went on behind closed doors, that things are done that nobody knows about aside from the perpetrator and the victims, but in this case, like a few of the others we've covered recently, it involves no evidence of foul play, no evidence of anything at all. There were no accusations, no testimony, nothing. Just an average, everyday upbringing, no more or less than what is considered normal. If anything, maybe the parents in this story were a little too much, a little too coddling. Maybe they should have cut off their child much sooner than they actually did. But his siblings didn't have a problem. His siblings that grew up in the same environment with the same rules, they all turned out just fine, were generic, productive members of society. But Joel, well, he was different, he was special, he was better than all of them. Joel Michael Guy Jr. was the youngest child of Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy, who had married each other later in life, meaning that Joel had 3 half-sisters from one of his parents' previous relationships. Born on March 13, 1988, he often went by Joel Michael when growing up to distinguish him from his father. Joel was unlike his siblings, growing up somewhat of a recluse, a boy who didn't like spending time out of his own bedroom. He didn't socialize too well, didn't like being around others, and that included members of his own family. Later, one of his sisters would even state that she wasn't even sure that Joel Michael even knew her kids' names. His parents treated him well despite his reclusive attitudes, and multiple people, including friends and family, would even state that his mother doted on him. Michael McCracken was one of these friends. In fact, he was probably Joel Michael's best friend and eventual college roommate. Michael also lived with Joel Michael at the boarding school they attended together for exceptional students, a boarding school named the Louisiana School for Math, Science, and the Arts. Joel rarely had visitors at the school, but it wasn't because his parents didn't want to see him, it was because he didn't want to see them. His mother called regularly, sent whatever Joel Michael needed, though he preferred not to talk about them much because he honestly thought that he was better than them. Michael described his friend as socially awkward, a loner of sorts who only got worse the older they grew. Other than him, Joel Michael had no friends other than Michael McCracken, and when Michael moved away from Baton Rouge during their college years, he was pretty sure that Joel Michael had no friends at all. Joel would spend a semester at George Washington University, but eventually dropped out before enrolling at Louisiana State University, where he planned to study plastic surgery. He spent years in the program, all paid for by his parents, who not only paid his tuition, rent, and bills, but they also gave him spending money. He stayed enrolled until 2016, taking sporadic classes, until he finally just decided to drop out of school completely, though his parents were still paying all of his living expenses. Joel Michael, or Joel as he went by now, had spent nearly 9 years going to college, but despite all that time, he didn't have a single degree, and not only that, he didn't have any job prospects either. And like I've already mentioned, even though he was 28 years old, he still never held a single job. Also in 2016, Joel Guy Sr. was let go from his engineering job, and he was actually thinking of retiring soon anyways, so it was time to finally let Joel Michael make his own way in life. His wife had already cut her own hours back, and she was also ready to leave the workforce, so they talked it over and decided to downsize before looking at a place in Hawkins County, Tennessee, a place they had always liked. Plus, there was also the legal trouble Joel Michael had gotten into, an undisclosed issue, something court documents only referred to as, quote, legal difficulty, end quote, something that his parents had even taken a second mortgage out to cover. They were just done. Joel Sr. and Lisa had already started telling friends and family members about the move, already started telling everyone about cutting Joel Jr. off, right before listing their home for sale, and afterwards they finally told Joel Michael the news themselves. They then invited him over as well as his 3 half-sisters for Thanksgiving dinner that year, the last one they would ever have in their Knoxville home. According to his sisters, Joel Michael was behaving differently that holiday weekend, acting more sociable, and he even wanted to play with his nieces and nephews, something he had never done before. He even showed them his old room, a room that was still the same as it was when he was in high school in their home on Golden View Lane. The room still even held a box of Thai Beanie Babies, toys he showed off to his sister's kids. After dinner and after all the festivities, the family said goodbye to each other and each of Joel Michael's sisters left to return home as each lived in the nearby area. Joel Michael, however, stayed as he was staying with his parents until the next day before he would be returning to his apartment in Louisiana. Joel was not happy. His parents had cut him off, told him he would now have to make it on his own, and well, he didn't want to. Joel didn't want to work, didn't want to finish school, he just wanted his life to continue as it always had, easy peasy. But how was he going to get money? Thinking about it as hard as he could, Joel came up with an idea. His parents would still be paying for him all right, still pay all of his bills, and if everything worked out like he hoped it would, they wouldn't even realize it. Well, not technically, at least. You see, Joel knew about their insurance policy, the $500,000 one that would still pay out if both of his parents were dead or just even missing. It was going to be hard work, messy work, something he had no experience in, but he was willing to give it a try. Ever since his parents had given him the bad news, he'd been scheming, writing everything down in a notebook, including the following. Get killing knives. Quiet. Multiple. Get carving knives to make small pieces. Get sledgehammer. Crush bones. Bring blender and food grinder. Grind meat. Get bleach. Denature proteins. Get plastic bin for denaturation process. Does not matter where they're killed, just get rid of bloody spots to prevent evidence of time of death, not the mattress or couches. Get rid of bodies inside house, there and my DNA already there. Open up doggy door to provide entryway he needs to be blamed, not intruder. Flush chunks down toilet, not garbage disposal. Get plastic sheeting for disposal process. Get hollow point bullets just in case, will be seen buying bullets, just use computer room. Gun check to make sure there are bullets, last resort. He's not alive to claim her half of the insurance money, all mine, $500,000. Flood the house, covers up forensic evidence. Turn heater up as high as it goes, speeds decomposition. Bleach reacts with luminol just like blood, douse area with bleach. Big sprayer. Lie. Trash compactor. Body gives time of death, alibi. Don't have to get rid of body if there is no forensic evidence on the body. With this list in hand, and before Thanksgiving had even arrived, he began to work, put his well-developed plan into motion. Joel Michael thought he was smart, thought he planned for everything, but as it turns out, there was a reason why he didn't do so well in college. Apparently, he had no idea what a security camera was. Joel Michael was caught on multiple different cameras as he purchased supplies he would later use to try and murder and dissolve his own parents for their insurance money. He used cash for all of his purchases and even used self-checkout, probably unaware that most of them had cameras and that they kept the footage for quite a while. Maybe he thought the police were idiots, maybe he honestly didn't even believe an investigation would ever take place, or maybe he just wasn't as intelligent as he thought he was. His earliest purchases went back to November 7th, where he purchased muriatic acid and food-grade hydrogen peroxide at an Ace Hardware in Napoleonville, Louisiana. Next, on December 18th at a Home Depot, he was recorded buying a bleach sprayer, extension cords, and a timer. Only 24 hours later, he made yet another purchase at a Home Depot where he bought a knife, a K-bar look-alike knife, just like the ones that were standard issue to all United States Marines. Finally, on November 21st, other cameras at a Knoxville Walmart showed Joel Michael buying large blue totes he would eventually use as a container for his own parents' bodies. By the time Thanksgiving finally rolled around, Joel Michael was ready to take back what he thought was his. Saturday, November 26th, 2016. Joel Michael killed his father first, finding him on the second floor of his home in the family's exercise room. There was definitely a struggle, and later investigators would note blood all over the walls, torn blinds, and an overturned Bowflex machine. All in all, Joel Michael ended up stabbing his father at least 39 times, using one of the knives he bought for that very purpose. Joel's mother Lisa was not home at the time of the murder, having gone out to get groceries at a local Walmart not too long before. After making sure his father was deceased, Joel waited for his mother to get home, and as he did so, he nursed several of the cuts he had sustained to his own hands during the fight with his father, including a rather deep cut to his left thumb, one that was most likely going to require stitches. As soon as Lisa got home, she went inside, and leaving her groceries on the first floor, she proceeded to go upstairs where Joel Michael was waiting for her. Like he had done with his father, he attacked Lisa, stabbing her with a knife over and over until she finally stopped moving. Part 1 of his plan was officially complete. Joel Michael first cut off his father's clothes. He then severed his hands at the wrists, his arms at the shoulder, and his legs were each removed at the hip, with his feet being severed at the ankles. Moving on to his mother, Lisa, he removed her clothing as well, before cutting her legs off below the knee and cutting her arms off at the shoulder. He also cut off her head. Later, at trial, a forensic examiner would testify that her neck was only partially severed before her head was, quote, broken off with force, end quote. Joel Michael then carried his mother's head downstairs, separate from her body, before placing it in a pot and heating it on the stove. Going back to his parents' bodies, he placed the parts and pieces into 2 45-gallon containers full of chemicals where they were left to dissolve, but not before Joel Michael made large cuts into them in order for the chemicals to seep into the bodies and parts so the process might happen more quickly. At approximately 3:30 p.m. that same day, Joel Michael was seen in the first aid section at Walmart, where he purchased bandages as well as disinfectant and antibiotic ointment for the wounds to his hands. The next day, after trying to patch himself up, he drove back to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where he was living, in order to get treated, choosing to do so at LSU's student clinic. On Monday morning, after getting treatment for his cut-up hands, he went to Albertsons, a grocery store, where he purchased some medications before returning to his parents' home to continue his work. He found it crawling with police, and he immediately turned around and returned to Baton Rouge. Monday, November 28, 2016. Lisa Guy's boss, Jennifer Whited, was suspicious about Lisa's absence and called the police for a welfare check at around 9:50 a.m. Officer Stephen Ballard and Detective Jeremy McCord went out to the home, knocked on the door, but getting no response, they simply left. At around noon that same day, another call was made, with the caller insisting that they check again, because it was definitely out of character for Lisa, who was always very punctual. After the second call, both officers returned to the home, and once again they knocked but received no response. Moving around to the side of the house, Detective McCord saw a small fence surrounding the backyard, complete with a locked gate. Seeing a doghouse, he called out for the animal but got no response. Returning to the front of the home, he peered in through a partially obstructed window in the door, and he noticed grocery bags on the floor, some of which contained perishable food. Going back around to the back door again, they noticed that the doorknob was missing, and approaching the door, they could feel heat emanating from the hole in the door. But there was also a smell. A bad one. They checked the cars next, the ones parked in the driveway, and finding one unlocked, they noticed a garage door opener, one they used to open the garage. There was an unlocked door in the garage leading into the home, and calling out who they were, officers entered the home to see if anyone might need assistance inside. The place was warm, almost too warm, and the bad smell they had gotten at the back door was much stronger. The detective noticed a chemical smell underneath the disgusting reek of the place, and looking around, he saw more than one empty bottle of various different chemicals. Moving inside the home, he noticed a large pot on the stove, and he also observed that not only was the stovetop on, but the oven was on as well. There was also feces all over the kitchen floor. Moving deeper into the residence, he made his way to the dining room, and on the dining room table, he saw multiple guns had been spread out. Later, he remembered thinking at the time that nothing about the place made sense. Moving upstairs, the heat only grew, and as he called out, he heard a dog barking, but soon it stopped, replaced by a whimper. He also noticed the first blood stain. Near the stain, he saw a bucket, one full of, quote, sharp instruments, end quote, and next to the bucket were more stains. And as he looked down the hall that opened up before him, he saw something else, something worse. He saw a pair of hands that weren't connected to a body. Detective McCord then entered the master bedroom, where he saw a roll of plastic spread out on the bed. Walking into the ensuite bathroom, he saw an array of tools, as well as different lights on the floor, right next to knives and 2 storage tubs with what looked like body parts that were liquefying. He next instructed the officers with him to leave the home the exact same way they came in to preserve any evidence at the scene. After leaving, he regrouped, told officers what to expect, and went back into the home to clear it just in case the perpetrator was still inside. The only thing they found still living in the home was the dog that had been locked in the laundry room. At some point, Detective McCord returned to the kitchen, and looking in the pot that was on the stove, he finally found Lisa Guy, or at least part of her. He found her severed head. The Regional Forensic Center's responding personnel removed multiple body parts from the home, and the liquids where the bodies had been found were transferred to a container sent over by the Environmental Protection Agency, one used for storing biochemical liquids. Investigators also collected 3 gasoline cans from the garage, the amount totaling around 15 gallons of gas. In the kitchen, on the counter, they found 2 wallets, a set of keys, a hammer, a magazine, vice grips, a purse, and money. One of the wallets belonged to Lisa Guy, and the other had the driver's license of Joel Guy Sr. On the kitchen floor, they noted a bleach spray bottle, a bag of trash, towels, rolls of trash bags, 3 bottles of bleach, a bottle of muriatic acid, an unopened box of baking soda, and a lighter. The front doorknob was in the sink, along with a realtor's key box, and investigators realized the knob currently on the front door had actually been the missing backdoor doorknob. Later, forensic officer Sandy Campbell would testify that it was very, very warm, and that the downstairs thermostat was still set to 90 degrees. The grocery bags still in the foyer were full of perishable items, including bacon, sausage, lunch meat, and even ice cream. Moving upstairs, they noted the blood on the wall leading up the staircase, the blood on the banister, and at the wall at the top of the stairs. There was also a bottle of lye, several empty containers of what was labeled as No. 2 sewer line cleaner, a stainless steel kitchen knife, as well as a pair of scissors. They also found a running space heater that was set to as high as it would go. In the master bedroom, there was more found, with the following items coming straight from court transcripts: 2 black trash bags, an empty pack of Clorox gloves, a Walmart bag containing gray workout pants, a gray long-sleeve t-shirt, 2 pairs of gray socks, a 3M dust mask, an unopened gallon container of liquid fire, drain line opener, Flex-On hose packaging, an HDX extension cord, Sharpie markers, safety goggles, a Defiant heavy-duty timer, a shower head, vice grips, a piece of plastic packaging, 3 unopened bottles of food-grade hydrogen peroxide, 2 glass dropper bottles, a large roll of clear plastic that appeared to have been cut, a mountable heater, a Bayco work light, a glass blender pitcher, Breville blender base, stuffed animal toys, a hammer, a flashlight, light bulbs, an empty sprayer bottle, and 2 post-it notes with handwriting. In the adjoining bathroom, there was plastic sheeting covering the floor and 2 large Rubbermaid type tubs. Both tubs contained body parts in liquid and were bulging at the sides. The shower head had been removed and a garden hose had been hooked up in its place. There were dishwashing type gloves on the counter and a knife in the sink. The upstairs thermostat was set to 95 degrees. In another bedroom, one later identified as Joel Michael's room, there were bloodstains on the floor, the tops of storage containers, ammunition, an open box of rubber gloves, a backpack, a laptop, more containers of hydrogen peroxide, and a suitcase. Inside of the suitcase was a post-it note that had an address written on it for Dan Bordeaux's Ace Hardware in Napoleon, Louisiana, where Joel Michael had purchased some of the items found in his parents' home. Also found in the home was a receipt to the Walmart on Parkside showing the purchase of 3 bottles of isopropyl alcohol, triple antibiotic ointment, and pain-relieving antibacterial spray purchased on November 26th. Also discovered was a notebook, one with handwritten notes and to-do lists that were specifically about how to commit a murder. Quote, "Minimize things I touch throughout visit. Wear gloves and socks to prevent fingerprints and footprints. Drop something down the garbage disposal to break it, get him on the ground fixing it, kill him with the knife. Clean up mess from him before she gets home. Kill her with knife. Kill dog after. Leave alive. Take dog with you. Place her in shower. Turn on hot water and point at her to get rid of forensics, remove her clothes and take them with me for disposal. Place him in plastic bin and use it to get him into upstairs bathroom. Cut off his arm and plant his flesh under her fingernails, place her hand with his DNA so that his DNA is not washed away by shower. Use sodium hydroxide to destroy his soft tissue and soften bones for transport, based once every hour to accelerate. Flush sodium hydroxide down the toilet. Wash out bin with handheld shower head and then direct handheld into toilet to flush everything out of the pipes and into the public waterway. Douse killing rooms, kitchen with bleach. Place hair curler with flammable paper and flammable containers of gasoline in 4 locations: his killing room, her killing room, his bathroom, her bathroom. Wipe down areas near killing rooms and bathrooms. Turn heaters up to 90 degrees to melt fingerprints and dry everything. Set her phone to send me a text message late Sunday to prove that I was in BR and she was alive. Leave through front door and wipe down doorknobs. Timer for flammables set for Friday at 10 a.m. so they can't report it." End quote. Another page of the notebook had handwritten notes with the headline "Destruction of Bodies," and it listed the percentage of fat, protein, water, and other compounds found in a human body. The last page of handwritten notes listed the victim's assets as follows. "With him missing/dead, I get the whole thing. All her assets are joint. Go to him if missing, unknown if he is dead. His assets, including all joint property if missing, when he gets all joint property, also get joint debt. Knoxville house, homeowner's insurance possibly, but probably worthless after fire, owe $100,000. Surgoinsville house, appraised at $400,000+, worthless with Renee on property. Her car, his SUV, not paid for. His boat, old truck, paid for. His 401k, $80,000 possibly left after taxes. He could possibly have savings and or investment accounts." Using the items found in the home, including the very detailed notebooks and receipts, Detective McCord, who was assigned to be the lead investigator, began to build his case. Using the Walmart receipt in particular, he went to the store and pulled security footage, and he quickly got a photo of who had made the purchases and confirmed it was Joel Michael Guy Jr., the victim's own son. Immediately, there was an arrest warrant issued, as well as a BOLO for the 28-year-old. Vigilant Solutions, a license plate recognition software, captured images of Joel Michael's car, a 2006 blue Hyundai Sonata, license plate EZI J752, traveling through Mississippi. On that same day, November 29th, Detective McCord was contacted by Academy Sports in response to an attempted firearms purchase at their store by a Joel Michael Guy. Eventually, he was traced back to his apartment, located at 5075 Nicholson Drive, where he was arrested on the same day he tried to buy the gun by a Lieutenant Scott Henning from the Baton Rouge Police Department, who had a team of officers in tow. Joe Michael was actually going to check his mail when officers arrived, and he was arrested right on the sidewalk outside of his apartment building. Once he was transferred to the local station, he was examined, and it was noted that Joe Michael had an abrasion or burn-type injury on his upper right arm, scratches on the back of his elbow, scratches and bruising on his upper legs, bruising and red marks to his back, injuries to his right and left thumbs, a slice to the inside of his left thumb and one on his right hand, and scratches to both hands, a wrist, and both palms. Joel Michael's car was also impounded, and a warrant was issued to search it. Recovered from the car was a large gas can, a meat grinder, a large metal bowl, and a, quote, mixer-type thing, end quote. FBI agent Gary Coleman assisted the investigation, and it was actually him who went to the Ace Hardware in Napoleonville, Louisiana, where he obtained security tapes from November 7, 2016, when Joel Michael purchased some of the items he used to try and kill and dispose of his parents. The case was coming together nicely. Even more security tapes were tracked down, and more items from the crime scene were tied to Joel Michael, and he was officially charged with the first-degree murder of both of his parents. Crime lab analysis results were also coming back from items recovered from the crime scene, including a pair of scissors that had blood on them from Joel Michael and both of his parents. A knife that was recovered from the scene also had blood from both victims, and pieces of medical tape as well as several gloves all tested positive as being covered in Joel Michael's own blood. Joel Sr.'s hands that were found in the hallway also had his son's DNA on them, especially under the fingernails. Officer Edward Wasserman, a digital forensic examiner, testified that at the scene he examined all the recovery electronics, including a laptop belonging to Joel Michael, a desktop belonging to his parents, as well as multiple cell phones. Officer Wasserman then said he couldn't get into the laptop as it required facial recognition, but when he did a data extraction on the desktop, he saw that 7 different USB devices were connected to it the day of the murders, something he called a significant event. He also found a Google search for sodium percarbonate and a bank deposit transfer confirmation, a bank deposit transfer validation, an account summary, and a services login for a Capital One 360 bank account on November 27th at 10:49 a.m. When data extractions were performed on the cell phones, he found multiple charges to Lisa Guy's credit card ending in 5773 with a total of around $6,300, money used by Joel Michael to pay off some of his own debts. It meant that he had wasted zero time in spending his parents' money, taking what he could before their bodies were even disposed of. On December 10th, Detective McCracken received a phone call from Joel Michael, who was still in the Baton Rouge jail. During the recorded phone conversation, Joel basically admitted to the crime, saying how he had effed everything up before asking the detective, "Why did I do this?" The trial officially began on September 21st, 2020, nearly 4 years after the murders had taken place. Joel Michael pled guilty, yet also filed a motion that he be given the death penalty if he happened to be convicted. He was facing 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder, 2 counts of felony murder, and 2 counts of abuse of a corpse. The state maintained that Joel Guy Jr.'s motive was financial in nature, and all of the evidence collected against him was presented to the jury. His sisters testified against Joel Michael, telling about how he never had a job, how their parents paid for everything, and how they were about to cut him off permanently. They spoke about how he'd been acting odd that Thanksgiving, seemingly going out of his way to try and not bring attention to himself, even playing with his nieces and nephews that he'd always ignored. One of his sisters even testified that she saw the totes their parents' body was found in the back seat of Joel Michael's car on Thanksgiving Day. She also testified that her dad usually had security cameras around the house, cameras that were gone when police searched the place later. Dr. Amy Hawes was the next to testify, and the deputy state medical examiner spoke about how complex the autopsies had been. Eventually, she was able to determine that Joel Guy Sr. had been dismembered and how his head had been completely skeletonized. She also stated that other than the skin from his lower neck and buttocks, his dermis had been completely dissolved by chemicals. Dr. Hawes also stated that because so much of Joel Sr.'s tissue and bone had begun to dissolve, she could not determine the exact number of wounds sustained, but she was able to identify 34 sharp force injuries to Joel Guy's back alone. She also found small abrasions and linear incised wounds on Mr. Guy's severed hands, wounds she labeled as classic defensive injuries. When speaking about Lisa Guy, Dr. Hawes testified that her skin, unlike her husband's, was relatively well preserved, at least on her back. She also spoke about her head, how it was found in a large cooking pot in the kitchen, and also noted that the liquid it was in wasn't nearly as caustic as the liquid in the tubs. Lisa Guy had at least 25 sharp force trauma injuries to her back, as well as relatively superficial stab wounds to her buttocks. She had injuries to her heart, lungs, left kidney, liver, thoracic vertebrae, ribs, and right shoulder blade. Dr. Murray Marks, an expert in forensic anthropology, also examined the victim's remains, and he also spoke of the severe trauma, as well as speaking to how the victims were dismembered. The state then rested. Joel Michael's defense counsel, John Halstead and Jonathan Harwell, presented no evidence of their own on his behalf. Joel Michael elected not to testify. In the end, the state ended up not pursuing the death penalty in the case, despite Joel Michael requesting it if he was found guilty. The 4-day-long trial ended up involving more than 700 pieces of evidence, and there were 27 witnesses who testified. The jury then deliberated for only 3 hours before finding Joel Michael Guy Jr. guilty on all charges. His sentencing hearing was then scheduled for October 2nd, 2020. In between the guilt phase and the sentencing phase of Joel Michael's trial, he approached jail staff and told them that he was having vivid fantasies in which he was gouging out the eyes of his fellow inmates, and because of that, he considered himself a threat to the general jail population. He even specifically mentioned an inmate by name, a man he wanted to harm while he slept. In a letter, he wrote about his fantasies, stating, "I'm writing this letter because I don't want to end up in a disciplinary infraction, or worse, more criminal charges, nor do I logically believe that this gentleman deserves to be blind. I don't know what to do. I shouldn't be allowed access to another person while they're unconscious." It's unclear if anything ever was done about the situation, and Joel's trial continued. On October 2nd, 2020, the sentencing hearing began. Shandice Fink, one of Joel Michael's half-sisters, made an impact statement that she had to go to counseling because of his actions and that she hopes that maybe someday her brother will repent. The lives he took just took a few moments for their pain to be over, but the pain that we carry in our hearts will be with us until our Heavenly Father brings us home, she said. Joel Jr. didn't just murder Daddy and Lisa, he took something from his children, grandchildren, in-laws, siblings, uncles, aunts, cousins, friends, and so many more that will never be able to be repaid. His evil crushed us all. Renee Charles, his full sister, wrote that she'll never be able to unsee the images of the crime scene she saw at the trial. She also stated, "I think that they need to change the laws on the death penalty because the nature of this crime should have sentenced him to death." Paula Kindler, Lisa Guy's sister and Joel Michael's aunt, also gave a victim impact statement to the court. She said she too had to be in counseling and that the crimes caused real damage to the extended family, with some of them even wishing that Joel Michael got the death penalty, though she was not among them. She felt like she just couldn't abandon her nephew, who she felt bad for because of how he was. "We would prefer all charges to be issued as consecutive and not concurrent," she wrote. "We think he is unstable and should spend the rest of his life in prison. Because of his social abnormalities, we would like leniency to allow him solitary confinement. Cohabilitation in the general population would be cruel to him." The Judge Sward, then spoke, saying that Joel Michael thinks he's smarter than he really is, pointing out that his crimes are committed in such an unintelligent way. "Hopefully it's the most severe I see in my career, however long that lasts," he said. He also pointed out that Joel Michael also appeared to show no remorse, and during the trial he even seemed proud of his actions. Then, telling the jury about his letter, the one where he said he wanted to blind his cellmate, he continued to berate Joel Michael, saying that he had a depraved mind and that he believed that would not change over any length of time. He then handed him 2 life sentences, saying he would not be eligible for release for at least 130 years. 3 years later, in 2023, an appeal to overturn the sentence was denied. As of this writing, Joel Michael Guy Jr. is currently incarcerated at the Northwest Correctional Complex in Tiptonville, Tennessee. This case was different. It was hard to find anything on Joel Michael himself, hard to get a read on him other than the fact that he was a loner who liked to be alone. He barely had a personality, it seems, other than being entitled and greedy, and he slipped through life without leaving much, if any, of a wake until the day he murdered his parents and tried to dispose of them in a horrific way. I still feel like I know nothing of the man. I don't think anyone really knew who he was, not even his own family, those who were the closest to him. He simply wanted to eke through life, do as little as possible to get by. He just wanted to merely exist. And that is scary enough just in itself before you add on top the murder and dismemberment. Joel Michael Guy Jr. will spend the rest of his life behind bars, spend the rest of his existence doing exactly what he wanted, not much of anything. And maybe he's happy, or maybe he's not, but either way, he's where he deserves to be, locked away from the rest of us, in a place where he can no longer hurt those who only ever tried to help him. And that is going to be it for our case today on Joel Michael Guy Jr. Please consider subscribing to the new Almost Fiction Plus channel over on Spotify, where for only $3 a month you can get access to over 12 episodes of Almost Fiction Plus completely ad-free. I will also be posting each regular episode ad-free on the feed as well, so you can listen to the stories as intended, completely uninterrupted. New episodes of Almost Fiction Plus will be coming out at least every other week, with the goal to do even more as the numbers continue to grow. Many hours go into each episode, so every little bit helps to keep the lights on and the episodes flowing. And if you can't support right now, it's really just as important to rate and review the show so that it shows up higher on any search features. Also, please tell your friends and coworkers, as that's some of the most important work that you can do for any content creator. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.